on page number 10. So we'll say in Tibetan 2 times, and afterward we will say English 1 time. In English, on page number 11, I take refuge in the Guru, I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha. From now until my enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And by the merit created this practice, may I attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness as causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from joyful bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. His ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, Mount Meru, encircled by the 4 continents, surmounted by the sun and the moon, I visualize this Buddha field and offering. May all living beings enjoy the pure land.
내 땅아도 대대람이 강강도 용요를 쓰는데라 좀 저기 된적 근데 상황가도 단다다 로식라 하즈데 냠든 좀 맞더데 동바 소수 전치지대 다 때랑때는 좀 맞더라 근데 지 다시 되는 요시라
무서워. 그 고조대 배를 열려나?
어디도 용도 가시죠
Good morning to you all, and I'm very pleased to say that it's such a great pleasure to see probably 6-7 of you here physically with me in the temple. This is such a great thing because we haven't got a chance to see each other for over the years due to the pandemic, and as well as very appreciate and thank you for those who you are still committed to this discussion and join me in online.
괜찮다 아주 대랑 곰정 곰세 따쳤던 남중에 시도르나 돈돈이 이거 상거스 당보 안에 이강시로 강영화시 좀 하고 하지 강삼동에는 당보 하고 지도마 그 공부나 송공부나 아니 지금 뭐 공부나 지금 현지 공부나 그 공부고 이때 셈나 이거래서 니송 니위 돈도 때니 셈네 마질라 지네 데 잠바스고 마질라 지네 삼로당네 되고 그래서 삼로당에 대원서 아니 셈때 야마 무적연이 로자고 데 로고 요메 따데 시즌 셋 셈거 서치네 오 셈단다 그 삼로돈 유코롱 내가 다 동칭들 따지 어떤 인이어도 상거스 어떤 인이어도 산안에 곰다당 로데 그래서 로그메카 거거든 잠깐만 그치도 사주 정말 저도 아까 라이온 메카 고구면도 그쪽 고구면도 있어 만나는 거거든 그것도 주는 거 그거 그런 데 주는 거 같은
we cannot hear you.
다고
나오다 꽂혀지 치도 않았어요.
저런 치지 좋다 그거 저막 삼고구매 그도 셰주도 가지고 고거들 취 셰주도 가지고 그도 고구매 가지고 고구면도
뭐야?
Now I'm on mute.
다고
Good.
Yeah, thank you.
야
Yeah, cool.
All right.
양포트
Yeah. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you very much for joining me in this morning's discussion. And before we go ahead and to practice our Aryantara mantra recitation and meditation, let me repeat what I have said before. And first of all, actually, I'm very pleased and happy to see you all. And particularly, I'm very happy to see 6 or 7 of you here and physically in Gomba, in the temple with me. This is such a great pleasure and be able to meet you in person. So thank you and welcome. And then I also appreciate and thank you for you and the rest of you still committed to this discussion and continue to join me online and here with me in virtually here with me. So thank you for coming. And now, before we go to the actual discussion, and let me, in other words, before we take our meditation practice, and let me repeat what I have said in the previous several occasions about the meditation. So there are 2 things you have to consider or make sure you understand well in all the time. and concerning about the meditation. So the two things as a twofold things, actually twofold two things. Number one is that it doesn't matter what form of meditation you engage in and how you want to pursuing your meditation or the content. In this case, of course, it's heart itself. So you must, number one, the first thing is you make sure you understand the object of the meditation, right? The object of meditation. So you make sure either that it could be just the sacred Om Dari Duri Soha, or the glorious, the holy appearance of the Arintara, or you want to choose the meditation and the object of meditation something is profound, is abstract, okay, such as the nature of the reality and so on and so forth. But in any case, so once you have to identify and pick up a specific object meditation, and that's number one thing. And then secondly, and then you have to remember from time to time, in other words, to make sure you pay attention to see whether you are stay still on that very object, right? Very object. So fully understand what you are meditating on, or your meditation is all about, and that is called mindfulness. Right? You remember what you have. You are so certain, you're so sure, and you know, right, about what you're going to meditate on. And that's remember that and doing that and be reflective and recollective constantly. That's the number one thing. And then while you're on the process of meditation, and then you kind of slightly from the side of your mind and pay attention, see whether you are consistently, right, continuously and meditate on the very spot or in the same meditative states of being, and just like when you at the beginning you started. So knowing these two things, right, know what the object of meditation is clearly, and then remember and what you have for your as object of your meditation, and then pay attention closely and make sure you are there. So yes, remember this, and then be watchful, and that's the second thing. So that's where we need to know whenever we meditate, practice meditation.
So iki chana Dare de so dare de so dare de so dare de so 야, 다 가정 줬더니 막 농주지. 단내 대떡당 돈 춘템바 칠흑기 돈바노스 드진지 세방 시위 질 가지 장보 리그런즘 바당 자 제나 타르와당 탐지 준비 소초비 예와 지시경 대땅 찰 뭐 맞든 어떤 왔지나 그냥 왜라서 그거 같은 용맥이요. 메이크 그거구나. 그래서 같은 게 좀 아주 고급니다. 그저 그거서 그거 송다. 되면 꼭
Dear me.
다 고드. 다 고드.
Okay.
고드.
Okay. All right. So both of you in the online or in the temple, please go to your copy of translation, page 96. Page 96. Now we're going to continue read the text which we left in the previous Sunday. Generally, good food nourishes the body, but if it is poisoned, it can cause death. Similarly, the state of enlightenment. But if they are polluted by misconceptions such as the eight worldly concerns and the selfish thoughts of and making a life of liberation and patience. So please don't let whatever merits you acquire.
다디 조도는 가르치고는 아니. 고드. 가지 장보때 제동 아주 리 초르시비 띵이나 디나 뜨거던데나 리라 손로와 나진 다드 베로와 돈 열사데 간지르다 제동 아주 지 로종 거는데 차정안에 타로당 탐지 쳔비 람라도와게 땡기 대화도와게 쳇드 레다 이나영 디 장요고 소수지 시야데 네 징알길 땅다 단다 지튼 지지가 원도 송에 네 덴데가 송에 네 다당 덕근 점벨 소베 당 덴데가 원도 송에 배조 당자 타로당 탐지 쳔비 람로알리티 거 착거레스 덴자네 배춘유 열지네 아니 강 냠슬랑 소소고 장위 또
같이서 생치나 맞으면서 보면서
오
다시 잡아 다 터지면 가스도 그래
오르르 타로당 쳔비 가스도 그레스 덴자다네 소소고 지 티슴 공성 강지나 때네 지 지트 치직 원도 송아이나 다 세기나 어떻게 송아도 지 빠르지
Okay. So what we have read actually has two things. One is a example or metaphor, if you like. Another is the actual content or the meaning of the very point, and here the author is trying to making. And then, so the metaphor, the examples which the author is giving to us is about the food, right? Or he used the food as some kind of analogy, and then to say that in general, food is by its very functionality or as an important thing, and it's very useful. Is to nourish and to consuming and then to nourish our body and give us the strength and sustain our life. That's what the food is supposed to do. Food can do. However, if that food, that very food, which nourish our body, sustain our life, if being blended with harmful substances such as a poison, right, or being poisoned, then what happens is that even though that's the food, but because of the poison or the harmful substances blended, then whoever is consuming take it, then the outcome will be very devastating, because just like we know in common general knowledge that we know, once you consuming the poison and the food they're blended with the poison, it could not only will not fulfill the your need, the purpose of you for you to consuming the food, but it could even can kill you. So that's the fact, right? Now we take this analogy or metaphor and in the context of our spiritual practice, of very task that is the training of the mind. So our training of the mind is also has to be very much carefully managed. So the training of the mind, the knowledge which we learned either through the hearing, through the process of hearing, meaning the collecting the information, the knowledge, and then through the process of the contemplation, meaning that through the analytical or critical analysis, and to define and to gain the certainty of the understanding, right? And then bring into the actual practice that is meditation. Either way, these three processes, the independent self or the inherently existent self, and the possession, the things that the person who possesses. So if you're not carefully to manage your very practice of the hearing and contemplating and meditation, and to make sure not have those the harmful elements, which is just like the poison and we discussed in the context of the food. So if you not pay close attention and try to purify your very practice without it being directed or driven and or kidnapped by the eight world concerns and the grasping of self of person or the misperception of self, and then the possessions of the self, then your Dharma practice is kind of like the food being blended with poison. So then instead of help you to sustain you and your body, your mind, and help you to attend the spiritual liberation, and ultimately to attend the Buddhahood and the omniscience, achieve the omniscience and to benefit all sentient beings. You could be end up, your very Dharma practice could be end up something that's become very bad and very harmful.
Oh yeah. 日常部那么的希望呢，让那种学习吧，新啦，从那空中印证吧，那是的，得到等，得到等是没用的，是那得到了，没呢，像娘子给予国家准备些了，像给么个了，都落单了，
This one. And so next, don't maintain introverted loyalty. This refers to holding grudge against the people for some small wrong they have done you and retaliating angrily. You should never indulge in such a behavior, or every chance of generating love and compassion toward them to be will be avoided.
안디 가르스나 했던 가서 직든 디나 네 얼소 직든 디 콜로비 인도네시아 콜라요베네 참진냠데 텐텐바진 로고사 테 강망별 텐사 티강라네 테 냠데 로고인사 텐 롤스타 나랑 소소라 ngan진 ngan진 그 시침보 당네 당전 당안지 시침보 요나 아니 텔라 지 노비 차로 종스지 시반로 지안로 강지나 람성 때 코트 좀니다 콜라 좀네 고급도 좀지니 그니다네 티김발레한테 시고 어때리 김발레한 삼로 때 코레나 또 고단단 것들이 지서 다단가 고급들 라마서 지망이 고때 못이 티 김바동 랭고 삼네 난섬도 청되나 어때리 그 삼로 용큰티 당당라 네 건서 전탐질라 먹베네 샴바동 형지 기위 고급도 까노 그래서 샴바동 형지 세대네 심지 전탐질라 대화당 다나 삼바당 어떻게 그거지 고즈네 창으로 이당 남들 강서 될라 샴당 현지 용을 갑 요와 말때 자 고급도 좀 그래 드시고다
So so it need closely examined. So the actual point is this: we're essentially our very reality is that we are in the world. We have to deal with our earthly life. One way or another, depend upon others and respond to others, and we have to have a forming some kind of relationship with someone other than ourselves, right? Who either nearby, so to your next neighbor and to working place. So the reality is that we have to depend upon others. We also have to deal with others and constantly, right? So then the question is how we should deal with them, right? What kind of the most likely the problems, right? And we may create it. We have to deal with, and in this very reality, meaning that you needed to talk to someone, you needed to deal with someone. So the most likely the problem or the problem we have to deal with from time to time is, from Buddhist point of view, is because it can be pinpoint down to one very thing that causes which causes all the troubles, or may cause all the troubles. That is our grasping of self of person, or self cherishment, or our ego, or our self-centeredness. Right? So our ego or self-centeredness, our grasping of self of person, and is the cause of all the trouble. So therefore, we have to be aware of, while we need to deal with forming a relationship, keep the relationship anywhere all the time. So we must know that there is a troublemaker which is sits right inside our mind, which could potentially cause all kinds of harm. One of the harm that it could cause is due to the matter of fact that you didn't do anything, or for some other reasonable, for a particular reason that you got somebody so it was so made you so upset, right? And or make you feel very hard and even painful, right? So once you have the relationship and that kind of experience through that relationship and have that kind of experience, basically it's very hard, feel hurt and feel painful, and then you must examine your conscience, okay? Examine your very basic experiences of the mental state of your mind, and to see whether you have any slice of negative feeling, and such as like the revenge, the sense of desire, or looking for some kind of opportunity, which has been driven by or motivated by that very hateful hatred, and because of the previous the negative experience you had with that person, and let's say because of you feel painful, and that person or that situation caused you very hurt. You experienced a great deal of hurt. So if you analyze, when you analyze this, examine your state of mind, you find that you hold that bitterness. You even you have the motivation, and you have the mind or the interest to, you are seeking kind of you are finding close attention and seriously consider, and that is absolutely unacceptable. Particularly from the mind training point of view, here of course the mind training is about the train your mind to develop pure, perfect altruism. Perfect altruism. So if you hold, right, while you are say you are study and you practice and you try to achieve it, make a progress, achieve something in this training, the training of the mind. But if you use a good reason from a conventional world point of view, and you make yourself okay to revenge and or to strike back on that person, and because you he or she or they make you feel very painful, then you know that very action, that mentality, that intention which sits in your mind is going to do nothing but to damaging your practice of loving kindness, compassion. And since loving kindness, compassion is the essential, the core of it, right? Is essential, is the core of this mind training. So therefore, have a hold that the negative feeling and the anger and toward anyone, and then seeking for the opportunity to pay back that person negatively, and which will make you no chance and to develop the genuine kindness and the attitude. You wish somebody happy, right? You wish you want, and you wish you can bring the joy and the happiness to somebody. And the compassion, and on the other hand, is you have this intention, and you wish that you can fix, and you can help an individual, free him or them from the suffering. So since this is the essence of the kindness and the compassion, so therefore it makes no room and give you no chance to hold any bitterness or any negative feeling, and even in the good reason, that has the good reason. So therefore, this is a very important point, and as a mind training practitioner, we have to get it to understand this point as clear as we can.
Oh ja, Shangan Mogul, Shiwatun Gulna Nyangla Zeshang, on Kadopi, Shangan Maror, Mashati, Rimbuchi, Chakawi Shanin, Disi Choki, Niwan Deji, Ni Zangya Meji, Ji Maji, Mula Manang, Shi Sheki, Tangwa Karwa, Zangzamna, Chila, Sawan Yang Mil, shower them by in songs. Chang Shiwana, Yanki no pa Johnsil Shiwala, Shimba, Jani, Tupiti, Nolan Sheba, la Sertes, Chiki go Shigni, De Tao Shamaron de Yanki no pa tang, Dingle Rangla, Tanglen Tang, Temple Shevi Shiros, Nella member Shiviton, Gun the Badlosana.
So next is don't make a malicious banter. Do not speak abusively in a way that strikes at the heart of anyone who hears it. The esteemed Chagala explains this as saying such a thing as at the time you committed that offense, you did not respond. It is not clear whether this has been done or not, and so forth. Pouring out a stream of such a invective will ruin the seed of your practice. Don't wait in ambushes. This refers to nursing a grudge against someone for some slight and retaliating when you are in a position to do so. Once you have entered into this practice of mind training, you cannot have it in such a fashion, since to do so would completely contradict the practice of taking others' troubles and suffering on you.
니 저통다 건것도 저도 도 집반도라 너도 가르치고도 답변나 아니 미기 지금 소소라 문도비나 남바도 소소라 강가 등은 저잖아 다때베 섬니 마조바치니 김발레안도 때문에 가른 로스니 킹이 교들이 들지 시우 판동 칭아 들지 무슨 들이 칭아 들이 등은 정송선에 마 름바치니 선보존이 파쇼텔라 요라셰들 들지나 아니 치와 남토 착해요. 아주 단단히 타고 전부 같을때라 동는 냠는 지기서도 동는 데다 등에 담지 소소고 랑제네 내와 담지 파 전라 동그인세 뜻이고 어떤 갈와 착그래 도르지나 뜻이고 다 소소라 등이 종스 용화데 냠 소소 당는지 마토에나 텔라테니 파쇼라 오그정 고츠고서 주주 그런 거 등에 당는 지긴 동는 지게세드 소수 대화 전라당 소수 연기 등을 랑글링세 땅 갈와레 치와 지기나 땅 갈와레 뜻이고다.
What we just read, essentially, in terms of essence of the message, is about the same, but here is in a kind of from slightly from different angle or the perspective. So it's further to point out a very important kind of blind spot for the area where we normally, generally, most possible. Possibly we would fail to acknowledge or fail to recognize. that is, in general, let's say, this is again in the scenario that you're on the process. Okay, you are committed, and you're on the process of this mind training, which is again this practice of developing the altruism, right? So you are doing so. You're on that program, and you are making progress. Meanwhile, so even if you did nothing wrong, right? You didn't commit to anything, contribute to anything, make others feel bad or feel angry, but still, right? And you are totally innocent. But when you notice that somebody who verbally kind of make a suggestion that your action or you as person and is not acceptable, and so you are doing the things that which is they completely and feel is not not good. They don't like it, right? When they verbally express such a thing, right, or they appear to you, they are and they treat you in such a way, or they are physically and stretch you, right? And so what's your reaction then, right? If your reaction is that even in a very gentle, passive way, right? Gently but passively, but still, if the way you respond is like something like that, and you're not doing something that's very confrontational and very aggressive, but you think, right? I don't deserve this, and I did something good before, and so I was this, and I didn't care what I've done for them, and now they do this to me. I definitely not deserve to have this. So when you complain about it and use all the good things you have done for them as a reason, right, to express your discontentment, your disappointment, or even slightly, and your some kind of aversion, and then from the mind training perspective, that very complaint, right, or the expression of discontentment itself is not acceptable. It's considered to be wrong. Why? Because again, the essence of the mind training practice is Donglen, right? It's about Donglen, and giving and the taking, right? Giving and the taking. So we are committed to giving, and we are committed to taking. This is this practice requires you, right? They're committed to these two, right, aspect of the practice. One is giving, constantly giving, right? Giving whatever you have, right? And then taking whatever the others suffer, right? Take the sufferance of others, the inconvenience of others, right? And anything that they think is troubling others, you need taking. And whatever the fortunes and good qualities, pleasures, enjoyable things you have is given. That's our commitment. That's required by this very practice of mind training. So see, if you take this and keep this in your mind, then take this as a measurement, and then you measure your very complaint, right? Even you had a good reason and complain about others the way how they treat you. See, your very action of the complaint. Again, your commitment of the practice of the Donglen. So we don't want that happen, right? So since our commitment is that we're not seeking for the pleasure for our individual self, or to fulfill the desires of cravings of a self-centered the self, but we are committed to helping out others to fulfill the needs of others. So therefore, this slight sense of complaint itself is it clearly illustrate that your very action of complaint is against the principles of your practice of mind training.
다 날라 맘부 시와는 근농 균척비 젠기 청저와 따오는 날라 베바데 텐자와 머똥 마마인 근라 샤마롱데 데트시나 샘똥도 등을 소란 베바 좀 옹위 니유비 셔로스 졸카 조컬 랑와 마샤오 시와는 랑진이 지치소나 문도비 클타고 나와데 타키 랑라 맘부 janla gaur or rewatong galwala serte te taw tan shamarongwa ne ngar jinos jo si matong shiwan rangjin ni ki chisuna janla pantagpi ngoso taw jiongwa rewate te ko chaki shiwa yin shidatan zimba la serte te taw lo jongul shamarongwi ngar taros 하드 뜻밥 시원 직든기 하 레총라 랑소초바 온라 하드 뜻밥 시와 데이터고 랑적기 랑적 치고라 시리 시바 근정 티슴 권슴 시경 당진기 소트 손니 코 gelwi 탑 바시 뜻삼나 하드 뜻밥발라 세데 진이경 데터 마송와 샤데 Kiki yanlagda diwir matso, kipi yanlagda dik matso shiwana, rangri pansum soba dipi yanlagda paro la manoba shongna, gulwa la serte tertao, ten mashawar labde, ten namda lojong dawar mashawi, damchik namso osko, dat jortana tizuman yumangra. Damdo loshirkom.
So we're going to read this several paragraphs. It's going to cover several points. It's a little bit long. Okay, here it is. Don't strike at the vital point. Oh, I think I did that. Okay. Don't strike at the vital point. It is to reveal others' mistakes out of spite. You should never do this to human or inhuman beings because it can provoke such a severe anxiety as to cause death. Don't place the load of a horse on the pony. It's referred to slightly avoiding a common problem and passing the unwanted burden to others. Trying to take credit for some favor you have rendered in common with others, with the expectation of receiving some sort of gratitude. As explained above, a practitioner of mind training should not behave in such a manner. Don't turn gods into devils. Just as you can lose your life if you make mistakes in the process of cultivating worldly gods, which is known as God turning into devils. So once you have entered into the practice of mind training, if any aspect of your listening, contemplation, and meditation provokes your misperception of self and serves to increase it, it is known as turning God into devils. Please see that this does not happen.
大同意。
Don't seek others' misery as a means to happiness. It's referred to waiting to capitalize on others' misfortune. You should train yourself never to act in such a fashion. These are the commitments that a practitioner of mind training should never transgress.
但你短程路开始进的啦，他他们多动路线上嘛，个罗中个当测试的结果的，那这当然的迷茫不有差，所个他有的我需要是真的啦，所马高长说这个撑着哇，就我们真的这个讲的肩膀真的被迷茫不撑着的中国嘛的，的肩那安尼爬上的了撑着那第一爬上这个，现在等的这个么子病个，安尼让人他们就说了嘛，别人看用过的。 当不得的噻，但你话这个是呢，那我那时头目那个就有呢，头目那个的，你话当我说没他妈头目那个就那，我那有头目就那个他妈见过了，怕有头目就那说那么过个什么东西的嘞，都只能这个嘛嘞，你话什么这个是个是呢？但说他们那个我说他妈头目那个就那，不是说把中国到呢，等眼睛是呢，说个地那个参加路去呢。 소소가 개변되다 나는 그 제인사한테 고수 통보지네 일단 가서 통보지 등이 기계인데 망랑네 들지나 이렇게 말했어 어디다 사대때 보셔야 되네 일단 가서 직접 사대 바대 내가 지금 조당 틀리죠 지금 직접 봐 같이 그 조반로 다도 지금 맞지나 때 소저당 들용 거 근데 내 밥세 내 차송 때 나지는 가는 치진이 tisum 것을 쉬어야 돼 당전 그 년부진이랑 지원 좀 받대 파 여원도 이제 지원 좀 로키야가 챘다 레다이나 직든 치기 그 녹음 같으나 소소 직든 치기 온도 손에 랑 지원 준비 소라 판 로스 파레스 된사네 대 참이 잡주지 뜻지나 대총 된 로송이나 로종거네 다 담치던 게 손들이 아니 어떠시고 다 노동도 어떠시고
Although the chapters we just read is kind of that talks a whole a lot, but essentially, if we go with the essence of those paragraphs, basically we can see what is saying is about the commitment of the mind training, or samaya in a sense, right? The samaya or the commitments and the very pledge you made when you enter into the practice of mind training. So the very pledge you made or the commitments you made to yourself, promised that you're going to perfect your training of the mind training and for the sake of all sentient beings. Then as a practitioner, or as a person who made such a commitment, who is aimed to achieve this highest spiritual perfection, then you needed to pay close attention and working on the little details and here there, all the time. For example, one of the smallest easily can be committed. The problem is that while you are with many other people or with the third person, right? In front of the third person, so you during the conversation and or having anything that so you were try to talking about, or you were having kind of either is a purposeful or general conversation. At any point, if you try to or make suggestions about somebody else's mistaking, or reveal somebody's the wrongdoing that he or she or they committed in the previous time before. So if you don't do this publicly, or with the third person present, you could potentially hurt that person's feeling, and you could make him or her feel very embarrassed and feel have no face and be in front of the other person, right? Or among the audience at the same time, in the same place, in the same spaces, at the same time. So we have to consciously pay attention, make sure we not reveal or point out anybody's mistaken publicly, and to humiliate or to disgrace that very person, because this could cause a huge trouble and would lead to a conflict that could be very devastating. And then another detailed practice we need to be aware of is that we all kind of engaging in the same project and doing the same old thing. So at the beginning, we agreed to do together, right? But when it's coming to become the challenge, become a very difficult and being severely challenged, right? And then you sort of withdrawn that are commonly agreed the project, you stayed away and then find an excuse to observe it, but not to continue the project. Right? And so let others doing the hard work, but you yourself and take the credit, which is again is against the commitments you made in this very training of the altruism. And so another third thing is about there are a group of people, so you are part of it, and so you all did the things together, and you achieved or accomplished the project, and finally everything changes so well, and everybody's happy, and so people enjoy the positive outcomes. However, as the practitioners of this mind training, if you claim the ownership or ask for somebody else or others' recognition, even suggest that you did the most part, or they claim that without you, and that the things that could not be as successful as what it has been achieved. So this such a suggestions and or consider that who played a very considerable roles in that successful project, that again in a subtle way is against the principles of the mind training, or the samaya, the other commitments of the mind training. And here is another thing, and which says that in the interested way, it says, "Don't turn a God into devil." Right. So this is a good be something that culturally and interesting, but also spiritually is very relevant. In some cultures and in some spiritual order, the traditions, they sort of worship, venerating a particular group of gods, but those gods are or spirits. Those gods or spirits are, from Buddhist point of view, is a worldly god. But in other words, the earthly born as spirits or supernatural being or gods in general. Right? Some religious practitioner treat those spirits or supernatural being as their protector and or some kind of guidance and or assistance. So that therefore they worship and they express their veneration and prayer to them and depend upon them in the name of the spiritual practice. These earthly born, unenlightened, the spirits could turn into some form of malicious or very harmful the evil being. Once you offend them, or you stop worship them, or you stop express your loyalty and to those earthly bonded spirits. So therefore, you gotta be careful and make sure you're not just seeking for such a protection and or treat it or you might and depend upon such a earthly, unenlightened and troublesome the spirits, even though he or she or they have some form of supernatural power. But if you do so, it could even though you think it's God is protecting you, but it could turn into or become a devil against you. And the real thing here, as the trainee or the practitioners of mind training, is that like we talked about before. So we are trying to train our mind, meaning that transform our basic attitude or our professional and sort of the materialized basic attitude, sensational pleasures. Right? That's our basic attitude. So we recognize this is very short-sighted and even in the long run is harmful and it's meaningless. So therefore we turn to the training or the project, our fundamentally earthly bond, seeking physical pleasure attitude. So our goal is root out those attitudes, those desires, cravings, right? And we must remember that we have such a very strong, right? That to the physical pleasure, sensational pleasure, and lead us or determine our determine that the qualities of our the training of the mind. we must be aware of this tendency is there. This kind of a mechanism is there. The reason we have to emphasize and that we need aware of this is because we could be easily misled or be deceived by this very pleasure-seeking materialistic sensational system. If you're not clearly aware of, and then even you think you are practice the mind training, you are engaging in the altruism, but because of the eight world concerns are being failed to clearly recognized, right? So therefore, one way or another, you could find out, in fact, you didn't make progress, or your progress is not been that great. It's always because even you are thinking, you are practicing the mind training in the project, but deep down or somewhere in the backside of your mind, or somewhere in the corner of your heart, actually the really leading power, or the thing which the mind which leads you, right, is not the actual altruism, but was the eight world concerns.
Oh yeah,
So now I would like to take questions. Do you have any questions?
I have a question. So we can go to the temple now physically? I didn't get an email for that.
对，我们来那个做过那个做的，我们用从这个一个地方送噻。
好嘞，嘿嘿，我们当有人看中国做这两那种德国企业子的差不多几回事。啊，我的你妈么当然差不多几回事。
Yeah, we started today. So we just started today, and from today we open to the public. And Stacy is going to make this announcement after the discussion. Most next Stacy is going to
나 뭐 질라差不多几回事。
Yeah, Stacy is going
그래죠.
Also, yeah, Stacy is going to make an announcement.
Professor?
Yes, go ahead, Victor.
Should I go? I see Aaron has a question too.
Okay, I'll ask. Sort of when I raised my hand, my video just, oh, there it is. All right. So I've actually been thinking about this question for a while. I'll probably ask it again in some other form eventually, but it's basically a lot of the training kind of, in some ways, in my mind, goes against certain maybe social ambitions, you could say, professional ambitions or monetary type ambitions. And kind of the question is somewhere how to balance those kind of things. And I guess I would say that in some ways right now I'm in a pretty good place as far as I'm getting a lot of education and whatnot. In some ways I'm a little bit older to be thinking about starting new careers and stuff like that. Cybersecurity is huge. There's always free education for that. But I also spent a lot of time homeless, which was really uncomfortable when it first started. But I found after about a month of it, I spent about 5 years homeless. The first month was really difficult. But after the first month, I found that when we went over sort of the 5 things to look for to see if you're moving forward with your practice. When I'm kind of being, I would just say when I'm homeless, it was really easy for me to have gratitude and that kind of approach. So I don't know if that's formed very well, but the basic question is how to sort of balance the objectives of this mind training with say just making money and being what you call a member of society. That's basically the direction. I might have a better way to ask it, but that's kind of, I think you kind of get the basic idea. For me, they're somewhat opposed, I think. Like my ambitions, professional ambitions, go against for example, is the last sort of, you said not to take credit. If some great things happen, you're part of it, you shouldn't really take credit for it. And that, in my mind, goes against the whole thing that motivates my professional stuff. And I just also say that professional stuff makes me a pretty miserable person. So that's kind of the question on how to do that. Responsibility versus actually being a pleasant person.
Yeah. Only now, we can share the Gisela thing. Take the bonus on the petition. So look at you can see the material when you have the word, then you can see the David in Yaman to what just have a function D, Mongoshi to Vidoani, Petitioner, and the Gati Koroshi, Jevadani, Suzuki, the thing David to Jevatown, and it is a Vigilant, Nijiva in Sergi, that means the get out of the Nijiva sort of town, and he must say, but just to say, thank you. The Java last meal alliance or over today. If you get Lodung non Chavina, Manda Mandu, Lodung gets the Gabby, poem to us. That day, Yaman, they did a Yaman because of the Chavina, not to town you drop the teachers on the Legacy, like Legacy, they can give each other. That the Legacy Samando was taking care of and get to. Jantan's going to suit us in those. Petitioners, anyone, CTV, and Tabu, to Annika later covered the Johnson, and the BNB, go those also the job a day, and that is David Master Johnson. Indeed, I think the guy would chase him. And the Chinani, as a Chambudua, Seattle. But then you put Chishani, Madame Bidu said it. Leave it, Sono, so the Jedi or the Digi, Pulos Nala, Digi, Jengini, like the most of the Jigi or that is a damn watching. Tamana Wachana. That's like a jagged didn't do much of the last one. We had a major was okay. And this is some Medusa.
Great, the try Hodura. The Coron that Lozon shares the Narala Dinana or that the Malashiku Mendoza, the Mambo Kyonjidu, that the Tang President. It's a tongue. 오늘 전에 치 남당 징징징 직든 치 용수가 빵네 상수세미 냠는 징징징이나 다 고코랑라 박병 도정도 통부차도로 적당한 저거 단단히 로종만 셔들라 아니 지 참망이 지엔스 춘이 시험 쪽도 세고 말다 그다음에 뭐부터 냠대지 저나 티 캡성도 니 캐닝 아니 지엔스로 인조당 아주 참만 멍보저 때는 종리 멍보저 깔리 잡니 종주를 때 그런 거 캡성도 니 캐센로 던지지나 단득만도서 토마토 치타는 그런 거 지위 점지 톰바텔라 그런 것때 늘은 내가 들지는데 점지 요거 토송데 판통 정선에 때라 지스이랑지나 때 소소 가와검 소소 못니 소아치 토바이나 때 펜도 첨부 요르지 때 그런 거 뜻지 로종전을 지금 뜻삼 겸을 뜻세기요 말이지 그런 거 지야 때 그런 거 지야를 모이는 쓰다 그런 거 적당한 미망보스길 따라든다 시고 뭐뭐 지고는 냠대 지르소 냠대 지교지나 그런 티너네 파 레칸로 간로 마켓지니 서드 데지니 캡성지라 소나데 람선 버트토는 이 제인지니 모소 키트니지는 그 말에 뜻이고 또마도 소소그 냠레 지귤레 같은 소소 겐 상미전 거에 미치지 말이 동도 뜻이고 아니 미자도 결과지는 람선도 콜라즘네 텔라지마 렌로 요구 차시당 조금 말해 아니 야 미치라 견차지 망부 요미 견차요나 견차도 결혼 때 채된 거니 미망부 그 갑르지니 되지기요 말해 어떤 동도 뜻이고 그러죠
This is such a great question, and I really appreciate it when you raised it. It's very practical, seemingly problematic issue and or practice in terms of how to balance the practice versus in the continuously engage in the social activity. This is the thing, when you from the, let's say, the readings of the philosophical texts and the scripture, and those of the scripture who emphasize and put the essential and the basic the contents is about the establishment of philosophical view. When you move your studies, right, from reading the scripture, which discuss about the philosophical view, to the mind of training. And I often find that this mind training, the text of mind training, or the point in the mind training is making, as if always sort of directly pointed to me as a reader, as the audience. It seems that I'm the only one, and the author is trying to tell me how wrong and how mistaken I have my practice is, or my mind or my actions is wrong. So that's the kind of hits right on the spot, I believe. So this also tells how effective is mind, the contents of the mind training, or the point that the mind training in the program or project is and so as a serious practitioner, and I guess we have to take that under consideration. Well, here let me verify, okay? And let me clarify what is the point I just made. So this practice, the practice we just talked about is it depends on you have to interpret it according to the levels of the practitioner. Right? So you and how well your practice is. And for those who relatively advanced practitioner who is fully engaging and undertaking the practice of bodhicitta, the development of bodhicitta, and through the trainings of intellect. And then we know that we have to adjust our attitude, our mindset, our motives accordingly, right? So the things such as like you are not approvable, right? And from the mind training commitment point of view, but we have to know it doesn't mean you should not recognize what you have done, right? You should appreciate what you have done. Right? What this text is saying that in the case that you take a part of the project, you are the one of the group, right? One of the group of people who are undertaking a very important project like we do to help out the homeless or doing something socially, which is very meaningful, right? You are part of it. And but at the end of the completion project, if you make such a statement or claim, you did it all, right? Or because of you, that's been very successful, which is in fact is not true, right? You are just one of it, one of the person in that project. So maybe it is such an excessive statement, claim, and you are the one who did it all. That is not acceptable. That is the thing which against the commitment of the mind training. And like we talked repeatedly in the previous occasion many times about rejoicement or importance of rejoicement. Yeah, in this case, yes, you are part of the group, and so even you did it individually, something that's very beneficial and helped out others, and you achieved you set your goal, and you tried your best and you achieved your goal, and up until completion and completed your test, and it is critical, it is very important for you to useful and meaningful, right? And I did a good job. That is reasonably, and you did, it was honest, and has truly happened, to rejoice one's good deeds upon to the its completion. So therefore, that has to be clear. And the only thing the thing which we try to, from the commitments of the mind training, and we say we should not do it, is you began the project with other people, but now you're having trouble, and you all has to deal with some trouble, and you feel challenged. Now you kind of withdraw, you stay away, and but then later on, when the things are becoming turn to be very successful, and everybody's happy, then you join the group, and then you claim that so you were there and you did the best, and or even because of you. And again, this is all a success and successive, yeah, and not dishonest. If you make it, such a statement and have a such attitude, that is the thing, the attitude which we consider against the commitments of mind training. And then another problem, or the basic thing, I guess we need to be aware of is not to point out the others' problem or faults and wrongdoing publicly, or in front of the third person, because that's again we consider not a good thing in terms of the developer our altruism. And yeah, that's to make it the matter simple, I guess that we needed to know about.
Mm-hmm.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that gives me enough to think about, and I don't want to, because it could be a huge question. It's just, there's also this thing, I'm not sure I need an answer for it, but one thing I'm sort of mulling over is that for me, the two are such polar opposites. In other words, like my professional development and the mind training to me are just complete. They're just pulling, they kind of pull in different directions. And there's this temptation to just sort of throw my hands up and be like, well, I'm just going to go back to being unproductive, but a good, positive person, which is helpful to society, versus being a professional that's helping. So it's just a huge topic. And that answer definitely gives me enough to go on and think about, for a week or two. But that's kind of the thing overall where I'm at. It's just how opposite for me the two are. It's hard to be both positive and professional. So I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, that's a helpful question for now. Thanks.
对对，那说你这个的，那报上去呢，那这当像你相当于那东西呢，你上边那个在这里这个老中的样子的当，你去从那也这个俺说个错这个那个学吧，那个今年都说你他们听说你了，这个这个多个我是通过都是说给你去从你错这个的那个反正让进的方向呢。 아니 거기 인준이 단데 공원에 로좀 문화 시대가도 지금 용화다 지금 추가도 같이 되고 하는 말이 그치 타입도 그래서 그 레게 랑징이 되시고 해야 뭐지 타입도 아 로좀 근데 제가 어디다가 이 레가는 대화 여기에 남비이나 다 상록기 수이나다 상호당당도 좋아니 지금 용화나 없이도 일단 그냥 그때 쇼카간다 노래를 뭐 시리에 되나 나디 차라들 제글란 송바디니 나포만도 같이
그래, 다, 네, 잠바다 미수 감독미얼 나서라. 근데 저 소소 결혼 때 팬토는 때 렌팬만 동안은 때 이쯤에 때 키고 잤어. 근데 로 르밀당 알아 팬토스 렘바주르다 베주당. 근데 자스나게 망아주 미수수 삼로 당당레 에너지 시카레 되게 망부르 된다다. 단다 디촌도 독성수 된다다. 아니 지마티 수요 좀 맞는 어떻게 그렇지라. Facebook account.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. Before you go, actually, I like to point this not only to you, to all of you here, both online or in person, within the temple, that At any point, while we were discussing and study, try to figure out and understand the mind training, the content of mind training, all those techniques and the theories or the actual practice, we must put in keep in mind that is, it's not this practice is not forced to everyone to accept it. There's no anything that's required, forcefully. You must do it. And but it's been there, give it to you, and as a reference, right? And for you to reflect upon, and for you to give it a try. It's like a guidance. It's not sort of a policy or some kind of rules, and no matter what, you have to implement it. It's not like that. Because after all, in the Buddhism, the Buddha Dharma, one thing that is clear, that is in there are various teachings and the various practices, all of them are designed to soothe or to feed fulfill or to meet the levels of individuals' interests and the individual's belief, individual's personality, and the personal both physical and mental capacity, right? So in some cases, you find a particular point, or particular areas of this mind training at this point, this moment, for the time of being now, it seems as hard. It doesn't make sense, and then and you should just leave it alone and then move on. And keep it in mind that there is such a training, there's such a reference, and the suggestions be made, and maybe eventually, or one day, you will find that you can do it, or it becomes easier for you. But up until that point, you should not consider, that's something that's regardless what, you must do it. It's not there's no such thing called you must do it, but you have to take it very skillfully and stay in the remind and go with the principle, and then try those detailed practice very skillfully. I think we also have questions online. Yeah, go ahead, Victor.
So my question goes to the mind training, it seems like there are many practical benefits of mind training that point in similar directions. So for example, today we learned a number of adages, principles that relate to how to interact with others when we notice that we have some kind of grudge or anger towards them. And we're learning techniques in how to interact with others that could actually be very beneficial. They could actually have many benefits from the worldly perspective, as we know, but also they have many spiritual benefits as well. And speaking to the question from Facebook, those of us who are practicing altruism and trying to develop compassion might choose to practice, for example, Tonglen, when interacting with others, that we ourselves feel and notice that we have grudge or anger towards. That's kind of from our side. And so I was actually wondering what Tonglen looks like in that context. When we notice, as the principles have said, that we ourselves seem to be holding a grudge, oftentimes irrationally. It's an irrational grudge. What does Tonglen look like there? What's the practice that we could do to try to improve the way that we interact if we're seeking not to have inverted loyalty, seeking not to have malicious banter, seeking not to wait in ambush, and seeking not to strike at a vital point. What does the Tonglen practice affirmatively look like in that context? And I just say one last point, which is, of course, in that context, we do in our mind practice.
That in door diuch the tang ta diuch ni leng pumdra ta dazin nyamji said rang chapte jeng chapte rang jotna ta ta da do so 남정 나랑 ngala yogo chongna ngala jingi sosu 균 잘람 시와지 소수 니와도 잘람 물랑가 소수 젠기 ngala 가오지나 섬 ngaro nganga 섬다 주라 어떤 참아 파지니 또 전라 정도인데 젠기 탑때 소수 저거나 다 다다래도 동는 어느 전에 나진 얌지 때 제동 아주 철리야로 돈볼 했는데 강점즈 했나마 토도 용고 무슨 선비 냠들어 다 타면 냠들 말 타진 냠들 선생님 냠들 진짜 차 돈볼려나마도 다 나진 지 토소나 랑그 찹때 젠기 찹때 랑 작토나 다 다다래도 동는 다다래도 없지 노르 디우시나
Yeah, we can go to answer this your question in the detail, or we can go the carried out in the extensive conversation. But make it a long story short. And so the direct answer is how to practice the Donglen, or how to bring the context Donglen with those the examples that we have discussed today, which basically is against the very principle of the Donglen and the purpose of the mind training, or the development of the altruism. So because we certainly do not want to do anything that defeats the purpose of our very task, that's to develop our altruism, right? So keep that in mind. And then I think the short answer is, if you're worried about not being balanced, or not being fairly done, and while it's kind of fair to do, or it's right to respond that way, or you have the right to do it, even you're obligated to sort of respond in that way, I guess with all kind of things and thoughts, reasons, is that immediately and put yourself right on the spot of the exchange self with other. Okay, put yourself in the practice of exchange self with other, and then you will see all your reasons and all your doubts will be gone. Why? Because just like you do not wish, right, anyone who attack on you, right? Even you made a mistake, right? You made a mistake, right? And you do not wish people pay back or strike on, right? Revenge, and make you feel the same pain or feel hurt, right? You do not wish that, so therefore, you put it yourself in in this particular context, right? In the exchange self with others, you know that you equally, just like you do not wish others to do the same thing to you, and so now you also have the reason, even they did wrong, they not do to the same thing to others. Similarly, just like you do not want others to point out to your mistake publicly, right, and humiliate you, right, and disgrace you, and you do not wish that happen to you. So similarly, you do not want to do that thing to others, even others are, and to some extent that to deserve it, or you have the good reason to do so, but you choose not. Why? Because your understanding of exchange yourself with others is that very bad thing you do not want to happen to you. And similarly, and like take the credit for others and the project, and so and just like and take the credit and so and here you do not since you do not wish that happen to you and anyone who do that, you do not wish that, so then you just turn you jump into other person's side and think that you also would have no reason to do so. Well, let me make it this. Yes, the rest of them we can just go item by item, and then I guess by the means of exchange self with other, we can overcome all the troubles. Let me make it one thing that finally point clear. That is, this practice of exchange of self or the Donglan is designed for the advanced practitioner who is still challenged, but they are certainly in the position where they can make a progress. Okay? It's not for someone who's beginner and have very little knowledge and is not ready, and then this practice say you must meet all these criteria, you must respond or acting like literally what you have in the mind training says. So what are the discussions we had, like self-exchange stuff with others, or Donglan, all this are, and is like a roadmap. Okay? And so the only person who feel that perfectly makes sense, is relevant, is those who are already, and feel that they see the progress that been made, and they see that where they kind of in short, okay, how far they have went, and so those people, for them is challenging, but definitely can overcome those challenges. And I don't know whether that makes sense. Challenging, but definitely can overcome those challenges. And I don't know whether that makes sense.
What are we?
Victor, did you read from the Facebook? I see here in chat. Is the same thing or different?
We spoke about it in passing in the response, in the comments that were there. It has to do with experience, intentions with, and we spoke about that in our context about how some that with other like practitioners. It might be something that we want to carry forward, though. It's a very good question.
Okay. Let me ask a question.
예, 다 소소 미주 참아 요구지바. 지마셔데. 지마시고.
Yeah. So I think it's almost 12, and maybe for some of you, have another thing need to do. Maybe we keep this question and we answer it in the next time.
这些是有几个，这是没必。 Here.
I will copy and then keep this question.
Okay, should I hold that? Okay, my announcement, this way? Should I take? Okay, hello, my announcement, well, thank you, Geisha and Tenzin and Tempa. But my announcement is that the temple is open on Saturday and Sunday, and it's also open on Wednesday from 5:30 to 7. On the weekends, it's open from 10 to 5. So it's open for a puja and for the teaching on Saturday. And if you would like to make a donation for the monastery, it would be greatly appreciated. And if you cannot, this is for people who are in the temple, you can just say a prayer into the bowl. And you can make a donation by emailing the center, tmbcc.kcl@gmail.com, or you can call the center. Okay, thank you.
We'll say the closing prayer on page number 80.
It's 12 o'clock.
la zong ba de ye de nan ji da de zhou xi zhang zhao xi yang zu xiong gen jia bian ju den sa wei la ma ren bo qi da so nian ge ri wan mi dang xi na ga zhen jian bo bu ni ji zong de ge song ti ji ni zhe za de so shang zhi sen zhuo ren bo ji 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 jie wa nian ba mi bu yin gong de pe er xiu re wei gu wei shang geng si pan dang de wa ma lin zhong wei 张这是红单子杨祖义，是不是的把的单一的就叫不把我这的人钱把当跟的送我的样的人，你是道路是给我的到他们这รับ的我的什么傻逼要我他们之间我刚拉出的我把的当人给为啥我的。 总就是让的我儿子判定中的担保的商业单子就他们这那这跟老的这种为的商业担保到的也就是就判定中的我为当初新人的是在别的家为我别浪上的也就这样多本嘛就是OK。 Sorry, today a little bit late.